man, they talk about Russians. Russians don't scare me nearly as much as the programming lineup on MSNBC and the audience it reaches. That scares the hell out of me because it's actually working. Hey guys, Joe here with Reasonable Media. I want to start this video off by saying, if you don't already know it from my previous videos, I'm not a fan of President Trump. I didn't vote for him. I don't agree with his politics. I could think of 1,000 other people I'd rather see in that office than him. That said, when he does something right, or does something good, or something that he should do, I'm going to call that out too. I'm not afraid to say that. The media, on the other hand, they can't break out of this full-blown anti-Trump mode that they're in. And to the point that it's costing them their credibility. It's evident in the reporting they've done over the past couple of days regarding Trump's comments on both the mail bombs and then the synagogue shooting that took place last night. First, let's take a look at what Donald Trump actually said.
I'd like to begin today's remarks by providing an update on the packages and devices that have been mailed to high-profile figures throughout our country and a media organization. These terrorizing acts are despicable and have no place in our country. We must never allow political violence to take root in America. Cannot let it happen. And I'm committed to doing everything in my power as president to stop it.
Okay, and so now let's take a look at what he said about the shooting that occurred last night.
As you know, earlier today there was a horrific shooting targeting and killing Jewish Americans at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The shooter is in custody, and federal authorities have been dispatched to support state and local police and conduct a full and thorough federal investigation. This wicked act of mass murder is pure evil, hard to believe, and frankly, something that is unimaginable. Our nation and the world are shocked and stunned by the grief. This was an anti-Semitic act. You wouldn't think this would be possible in this day and age, but we just don't seem to learn from the past. Our minds cannot comprehend the cruel hate and the twisted malice that could cause a person to unleash such terrible violence during a baby naming ceremony. This was a baby naming ceremony at a sacred house of worship on the holy day of Sabbath. Anti-Semitism and the widespread persecution of Jews represents one of the ugliest and darkest features of human history. The vile, hate-filled poison of anti-Semitism must be condemned and confronted everywhere and anywhere it appears. There must be no tolerance for anti-Semitism in America or for any form of religious or racial hatred or prejudice. You know that very well. Today, with one unified voice, we condemn the historic evil of anti-Semitism and every other form of evil. And unfortunately, evil comes in many forms. And we come together as one American people.
Okay, so listen, Trump fan or not, there's no denying that what he said there were the right things. He called for unity. He called the acts, atrocious. Yes, he read from the teleprompter, but that's literally what every president does. They read from the teleprompter. The thing that people find so, unique about Donald Trump is that he often goes off script. and stops reading for the teleprompter. But reading from the teleprompter is what he's supposed to do in this instance, and that's what he did. And to me, that conveys that he understands the gravity of the situation, and he's taking the time to make sure that he gets it right, instead of going off script and possibly saying, who knows what with this guy. But the fact that he read the teleprompter, he read the statement calling for unity, all of that is exactly the right stuff. Now, from the media standpoint, though, all we've heard since then, both for the bombing response and for now his response in the shooting, is that it's not good enough. Which, there comes a point where you have to ask yourself, what is good enough then, specifically? They've called for him to tone down his rhetoric, and he literally toned down his rhetoric in those two speeches. They say that, he's to blame for it, which I think is a stretch. And as we discussed in an earlier video on Cesar Sayak, the media is every bit to blame, as much to blame as Trump is. So if you blame one, then you have to blame the other, because they're both playing the same game. But Donald Trump is actually the one in this situation who toned it down. And media, I see it. Politicians on the left, Adam Schiff, all the usual suspects. Obviously, this isn't good enough. We need more from him. That's kind of the typical political game. That doesn't strike me as anything new. But the media is really dropping the ball here. And so when you see all of these reports on CNN or MSNBC or the New York Times or wherever you get your news from, what you see is the news media trying to further demonize Donald Trump. When I say further, I mean they take whatever bad thing he says and they take it to the furthest extreme. And we've talked about this before too, but just every day we see more and more of it. CNN went as far as playing Hillary Clinton's response to the bombs without mentioning the fact that just 2 weeks earlier she was calling for incivility. She went on record and said that, Democrats can't be civil until we win back, the House and Senate, which is unbelievable. She might not have been standing at a podium screaming it with veins popping out of her face like maybe Donald Trump typically does. But man, that message is wildly irresponsible to come from somebody who, envisions themselves as presidential material. Trump typically calls this fake news. Personally, I call it heavily biased and incredibly prejudicial news. Most of the time, CNN, MSNBC, they're still reporting the facts, but they're reporting them as biased as they can and as prejudicial as they can. And you note it when you turn on these networks or you read these articles, it comes down to their phrasing, the adjectives they use, how they word what they say is not an accident. It is deliberately geared to further divide people against Donald Trump. Again, I don't like the guy. I can't stand him. I certainly wouldn't vote for him. But man, there comes a point where you have to admit, hey, he got elected and the world didn't end, like we were being told it would. So, and that's the thing too. It's like, as Democrats, I get it if you don't like the guy. And if you want to post on your Facebook how much you hate him, if you want to write a blog, if you want to make a video like this, all of you people out there doing that, man, I applaud it. Same to the people who love him and are doing the same thing. Because right or wrong, it's good to have these voices heard one way or another. I think political debate is incredibly important, and I value that. But there's a difference between us doing this in our videos or on our Facebook walls and the news doing it. You see, when reporters and anchors start doing it, it stops being the news. It stops being journalism, because what they've done is they've revealed their bias, and revealed they're so biased they have no intention of hiding it anymore. And the networks have always been biased one way or the other, but the fact that we're in a time now where they're not shy about hiding that is really what's scary. And so it comes at the cost of their credibility. When Trump shouts fake news, he's only part wrong, right? And which means he's partly right too, because it's certainly, presenting the news in the least favorable light. And so to condemn Donald Trump for, his past comments and incivility, and in the same segment to show the Hillary Clinton footage where, she says, boy, these are troubling times, without adding that caveat that she was just 2 weeks ago calling for incivility. It's biased. It's evident that, the news media, no matter what, wants Trump gone. And that's a scary thing. Donald Trump is the president of our country. I know you guys don't like him. I don't like him. I know a lot of people who are watching this, you guys love him. I get that. But for the news organizations to blatantly do everything they can to influence these elections, man, they talk about Russians. Russians don't scare me nearly as much as the programming lineup on MSNBC and the audience it reaches. That scares the hell out of me, because it's actually working. People talk about the political divide. The political divide doesn't come from us as Americans watching Donald Trump give a speech, or, watching C-SPAN and watching the chambers, in session. It comes from how the news media presents the information to us. And so I think in this case, they've dropped the ball. They've continued to drop the ball for going on 2 years now. And the purpose of this video is so that maybe you guys out there too will think the next time you hear it, maybe it's not just them saying these politicians are dividing us. Maybe it's the news itself. If you disagree, by all means, leave me a comment in the comments section. If you agree, I'd love to hear that too. If you like this video, leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. You can hit the notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks.